Okay, UFC 284, Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski, as well as Yair Rodriguez versus Josh Emmett out there in Australia. And yeah, I think if you take away, to be honest, the co-main and the main, I know it sounds dumb because obviously these are the fights we want, but other than that, it's a pretty lackluster card, to be honest, out there in Perth. Yeah, like I said, the co-main and the main are very good fights, but I think the other fights on the card really don't live up. Like in the main card, open up with Jimmy Crute. This is Alonzo Mainfield, nothing great. Justin Tafa versus Parker Porter. Like I said, the fights don't really jump out at you, to be honest. You got Tyson Pedro in the prelims, but again, nothing much. There were rumors, obviously, of Whitaker and, I think it was actually thingy that was supposed to be Whitaker and Costa on this card, and that would have been an amazing fight, because then I think that would have really given this card more of a well-roundedness to it. But it is what it is. But yeah, not a great card, but two very interesting fights. So I'm going to go through the two main fights, beginning with Yair Rodriguez and Josh Emmett for the interim featherweight title on the co-main. Yeah, this featherweight division is weird. Especially, I mean, you got the champ obviously in the main event, but forgetting that for a second, you got Yair and Josh Emmett. So if you look at both of them, Yair's last fight was that weird one against Brian Ortega where Ortega gets injured, and then before that, it's his loss to Max Holloway. And if you want to look at Josh Emmett, his last fight beat Calvin Kattar, got a decision in the 5-rounder back in 22, and then beat Danige, Shane Burgos, Mirsad Bektic, and Michael Johnson. So he's done pretty well, Josh Emmett, to his credit. A decent winning run he's put together. But Yair one, I don't understand. I mean, when I said don't understand, I guess you got to put somebody in this picture. But to me, Arnold Allen would have been more of a suitable pick, I feel, for this one. But here's what it is. So in terms of Yair, though, what I'm saying is he obviously lost against Holloway, and then he had one win against Ortega, which wasn't really, he got injured. And don't get twisted, I thought Yair would have won that fight regardless, but then he's now in a position to fight for an interim title. It's just, it's a weird situation in featherweight division. They did the same thing with Brian Ortega. He had one fight against Korean Zombie when he won after taking so long off, and then right away the game they shot of Volkanovski. This division, I can see what Volk means when he says there's no contenders. Nobody really wants to step up. This is why I think Arnold Allen is your best bet as being a half decent contender, because as good as Holloway is, you can't have him and Volkanovski every single time. You need more matchups. So, yeah. As a fight, though, this is interesting. With Josh Emmett, you got a guy who's a thunderous puncher who can put your lights out instantly. You got a guy in Yair Rodriguez who has such a diverse skill set, I would say. You know, he's somebody who likes to throw these upwards elbows, throw a lot of different kicks as well. Has the ability to put you out, but at the same time, he's against Holloway, I felt like he gassed out quite easily because he gave everything in the first few rounds, and it was a fantastic fight against Holloway. So yeah, an amazing, fantastic fight. Yeah, don't get me wrong, very, very skilled. But I just think, I don't know, there was a lot of hype about him early in his career. He was thinking he's going to be amazing, but then I remember the fight against Frankie Edgar, I think at UFC 200, and he just kind of never really lived up to that potential. Yeah, he had the UFC Mexico fight against Jeremy Stevens where he poked him in the eye. Like there's so much promise there, but this could still be his opportunity. And to tell you the truth, I'd rather see him versus Volk than Emmett versus Volk, as good as Emmett is, and he's only 30 years, so he has got time to be a champ. I just think at the moment he's at a bit of a crossroads, I feel. But still a unbelievable fight. And against Josh Emmett, Josh Emmett, somebody who's 37 now, so 7-year age gap between them, which is very, very telling, because with Josh Emmett you would think he'd be slowing down, but he's a lot of fighters like we've seen in MMA, they get better with age, and I think you've seen this. And remarkably, only ever lost twice in his career, Emmett, and one was to Desmond Greenwood decision, and one was where he got put out badly by Jeremy Stevens, one of the most vicious elbow KOs I've ever seen when he was on the ground. So yeah, I think two dogs in there, and I think these are two guys who won't quit. They'll both give it their all. I actually think this is going to be an amazing fight. I can see this being a fight of the night, to be honest. I think both of these guys really want that belt. I think for Emmett, you look at him, he's been waiting, I think, craving for that shot for a long, long time. And at 37, you're not going to get many better opportunities than now. You need the shot. And with Yair, it's been a lot of stop-start stuff in his career. Obviously, he had the that mad knockout of the Korean Zombie. Then had this crazy stuff happen with Jeremy Stevens. Then beat Jeremy Stevens, but then had the thing with the drug where he was out for quite a bit. And then came back against Holloway, put in a great performance, but still lost. And then got the weird one against Ortega. So this is what I'm saying. It's a bit of a weird position he's in, Yair. But his temperament will be interesting this one. Ultimately, people do count these interim belts as world titles. So it is a world title shot for him. I just wonder, like, how do you cope now under the lights? You're in the champion's home country as well with him on the main event. Are you able to live up to that? Mentally, it'll be interesting to see. I think Emmett, I just think at his age, he's 37, he experienced. I think he'll be a bit more calmer under the lights. But I just wonder how Yair will cope. But for Emmett as well, like I said, thunderous puncher, quite a strong wrestler, but nothing really that you would say particularly like massively stands out. The only thing I'll say, his power, considering what the weight is very, very big. Like, you look the main guys in this division, Ortega's striking is alright, but it's no power really there. Volkanovski here and there can drop you, but nothing, again, he's not like he's a thunderous puncher. Holloway's a volume guy, as we all know. And Yair's, he can put you away with technique, but it's not really power. Emmett's got that power. Arnold Allen can bang, to be fair, but again, I don't think it's the same as Emmett. Emmett has that explosive, a little bit like how Tyron Woodley had that ability to put you out cold. Emmett has that. And if Yair oversteps with the knee or goes in front of Bleak hit, doesn't really land it, and then he's open for that right hand every day. So he's gonna have to tread carefully, Yair, be very technical in this fight, not make any mistakes. And I think he could easily, outpoint Josh Emmett, but I just don't know if that will happen. I think he's too much of a live wire for that to happen. And then when it comes to Emmett, I think if you can break Yair down as the rounds go on and tire him out, I think that would be your best bet of winning this fight. For Josh Emmett as well, if I look through his last fight against Calvin Curtis, split decision, but it was 5 rounds, so it's shown he can go all 5. And, you know, he's one of them, again, with experience. I think he'll be able to manage the 5 rounds a lot easier. And it's a close fight, this one. I do think it will be an absolute war, though. I do think both guys, because of how they fight, they're very sluggish and quite not sloppy, but they are open to getting hit, and I think that's what will make it an amazing fight. So, yeah. For my prediction, though, I think it's a close one. Like I said, I think Emmett could put Yair out. I think Yair could maybe catch him or something, but I think it will be a unanimous decision win for Yair Rodriguez. I do think that he will do enough in this fight. I think he'll keep him at range. I think it'll be a war. I think I can see him getting dropped in this, but I just think he'll do enough in the first few rounds, and then Emmett will come back into it, landing a few shots, and I think you'll see a very back and forth fight. I think this would be an amazing fight, personally, because as with high level guys, you don't really see them getting into wars that much. I think the last time I can think was maybe like a Usman and Covington, but other than that, you don't really see it, because usually guys have a game plan to neutralize any onslaught from the other guy. But yeah, I think Yair gets this one done. I think he does well. Picks apart. I think the calf kick is always there for him, and I think he will land it at will against Emmett. I think he'll affect Emmett in the first few. I think then you may see Emmett try to wrestle a bit more and try and get Yair to the ground, and I think that's when you may see Yair tire, and then that's when in the few rounds you may see Yair go down. But I think Yair will do enough to get this one done. I think he'll rally on in the 5th and 4th, and then really do enough to seal the victory. Yeah. And him and Volk is a good fight. I think Volk, I know people say might say he's a featherweight GOAT. I don't think he is. I think he's still got a lot of work to do, but clear out the division, I think, is my whole thing with Volk. I'd like him to fight Yair. I'd like him to fight Emmett. I know Emmett maybe 37 might be hard now. I'd like him to fight Arnold Allen. There's a lot of guys I want him to fight. I would have loved him to fight Zabit, but obviously Zabit retired. So yeah, I still think there's a lot of fights here for him. So yeah, I'm going Yair Rodriguez to take the belt home. Now, going into the main event, we got Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski. First title defense for Makhachev, and first time going up to 155 for Volk in the UFC, that is. Looking at the teletape, it's a big difference in a few things. 5'8" is Makhachev and 5'5" is Volk. This surprises me. Apparently Volk has a 1-inch reach punch, which, I mean, Makhachev has got quite small arms, but Volk has as well, so that just surprised me, that, but I trust the tape. Both guys got one loss in their career. Obviously, for Makhachev, we know that time he got knocked out long ago. For Volk, however, I think you'd have to go very, very far back to actually find the last time this guy lost. Obviously, certain people think that he lost against Holloway that second time round, but you know, I personally disagree. I think he did enough to win that one, and obviously schooled him in that third fight. So yeah, I think he's undefeated. Volk is in the UFC, and it's funny because people I felt didn't really talk about Kamaru Usman's record as much up until the Edwards fight, where he never lost in the UFC, and he really barely lost around in a lot of those fights as well. But I think people then started to slowly, as time went on, recognise what Usman was, and I think they're doing that with Volk now. I think everybody now is respecting Volk and seeing what he is. You know, the Holloway 2 fight got people all upset, which didn't make sense to me. He won that fight to me, but you know, people have their favourites in that. Yeah, an interesting fight, this one, though. I think stylistically, we've never seen Volk in there really with a grappler. If anything, he's been the grappler most of the times. And with Makhachev, it's a smaller guy, stockier guy, so it could be harder to take him down, or in turn, it may also be a lot easier. We'll see how Volk deals with it. Volk's a very good grappler, but there's good, and then there's the Dagestani level of grappling. The guys of Makhachev could be, even the Chechens like Chimaev, you know. You see the difference between these guys and your sort of standard grapplers in the UFC. You know, you look at someone like Oliveira, who's a good grappler, could take you down, but then against Makhachev, you look like a fish out of water. And that's not because Oliveira's a bad grappler, but that's just because Makhachev is that good. And yeah, so for Makhachev, his last fight, like I mentioned, was the Oliveira fight, where he was able to submit him in the second round after dropping him with a beautifully timed right hand. And for Volkanovski, his last win was the Max Holloway fight, in which he put on an absolute clinic and schooled Holloway, which surprised me. I thought Holloway might have pulled it off, but he showed Volkanovski that he is the man in that division. He's the one who everybody should be respecting. So an amazing fight, Volkanovski. Somebody who I think for a while was underappreciated, but like I said, now I feel people are starting to give him his flowers, which they should do. Coming into the fight, though, Volkanovski going up in weight, which I think is good to see, in his hometown as well, so there is some pressure on him, but I think the pressure is more on Makhachev, if I'm being completely honest, as crazy as that sounds, because Makhachev is one of those fighters, he's so dominant that everybody kind of figures that Volkanovski is going to lose this fight. So, in turn, the same with Khabib, there's not really pressure when you fight these guys, you just kind of got to do better than other guys, and people give you credit. If Volkanovski just lands on 1-2 with Makhachev and can take it to the third round, people say, oh, he did better than Oliveira. And if Makhachev goes out and beats Dariush in an easier fashion, then maybe people might look and say, oh, look how good Volk did. So this is, when you fight these guys, this is these sort of brownie points that you get, because they're that good and that dominant. And I do think Makhachev's going to, in this fight, so I think Volkanovski's excellent. I think his timing, the way he kind of creates angles, his striking. He hasn't got like thunderous power, but he's got enough to hurt you and get your attention, and his movement. And I think he's evolved a lot since he won the belt. And I think you're seeing that now in front of you. This guy is elite, and I think the confidence that he has as well is definitely something that people undermine it. But you know, a confident fighter is a dangerous fighter. Somebody who really believes in themselves. And a lot of times fighters, they don't commit to punches. You know, if you go switch in sports and go into boxing, people talk about Anthony Joshua not believing in himself. But if you have that confidence, that's not a problem. And you look at guys also like Paulo Costa, when he fought Adesanya, didn't throw anything. I don't think he believed that he could really touch him. So this is important to me. Self-belief is the whole thing of a fighter, and you don't have that, I think you're not going to be anywhere close to a world champion. And I think that's what Volk has in abundance. I think he's going to struggle in this one, and I'm coming into my prediction. So obviously Makhachev's game plan is going to be to take him down, beat him up, submit him. His striking is very good, Makhachev. People do underrate it. I think people now recognise it a bit better after the Oliveira fight. Obviously that's Volk's world though, and I don't think it's going to be one of those where if Makhachev can't get him down, he's screwed. Because as good as Volkanovski is striking, he's not like a super slick guy, and I think because of the threat of the takedown's always there, it's always going to be a bit dicey for him either way, because Makhachev also is no powerful guy. And if I could say who's going to drop who, I actually think Makhachev's more likely to drop Volkanovski because of the way Volkanovski kind of leads, and the way Makhachev is striking is very technical. Not unbelievably technical, but technical enough where he will land shots on you if you give him the opportunity. I do wonder how Volkanovski deals with the grappling, because we haven't seen him against a grappler really. Nobody's tested that. That's why I would love to see him and Zabit to see how that would have gone, but we ain't seen that. Yeah, nobody's tested that grappling of Volk really. Chad Mendes did a little bit, but nothing, not to a higher level that Makhachev is going to. So yeah, I do wonder what happens in this fight. I think it's an intriguing fight nonetheless. I do think that for Makhachev makes sense. I don't think there's really many fights out there. From Dariush there, and I think that would be the fight next after this one. But we'll see how he does against Oliveira. Maybe Oliveira rematch. There's a few fights out there for him, but I do think that Makhachev is the guy in this division, and I don't really see many people beating him. And yeah, so when we get into my prediction of this fight, I think Volk's excellent. I think he's a pound for pound best. However, and this is going to shock people because of what I just said, I think Volk is amazing, but I think Makhachev actually makes this look easy, and I actually think he'll get it done in the first round. I think he submits Volk, I want to say with a rear naked choke. Now, the reason I say this is there's a lot of pressure. I think Volk will come out hot, trying to put some on Makhachev to earn his respect a bit, but then I think Makhachev will do a little bit like what he did to Dan Hooker and find the opportunity. I think he'll catch a leg of Volkanovski as he's going for one of his famous calf kicks, and then eventually he'll catch it, get him down, and that's where I think you'll see Volk try to get up, but then Makhachev will mount him, pass his guard, and then I think you'll see him get a rear naked choke, and then we will see him retain the belt. And look, it could go the other way. Maybe Volk does the opposite and knocks him out in the first round. We've seen what Usman and Edwards, any guy, if you just set up right, can knock anybody out, but I don't know, I feel like Makhachev's going to make a statement in this one, at a big one. And for Volk, he probably needs to be a bit better than others having this fight. I don't think a first round submission is going to help his case if he ever goes back up to 55. But yeah, I just think Makhachev gets this one. I think he's too good at the moment. I think he's the best in the world, and I just think that nobody in that division, I think, comes close to him, unless Khabib decides to come back, which ain't happening. So yeah, also Khabib not in his corner apparently as well, which I think is an interesting one. But yeah, an intriguing fight though nonetheless. Champion versus champion, a real super fight. They're saying that this one hasn't been promoted much, but I think the problem with this is both these guys are pretty respectful, so you're never going to get like that big buzz that you got with, McGregor Alvarez with DC and Stipe and all those kind of fights. So yeah, UFC 284 though, an interesting card nonetheless. Two fantastic fights, and they made some intriguing fights throughout the card. So yeah, I'll do a review obviously after the fights, and yeah, until next time.